Angela Bassett was so good in this movie. The whole cast was, but it's like, I think I saw someone on a podcast or something say it was like they were holding Angela Bassett at gunpoint and told her, if you don't do the best acting you've ever done, it'll be your last movie. And she delivered.
She really you believe she is a queen.
Hey everybody, John here.
Bob too.
And we are editing this into our Black Panther Wakanda Forever episode because that episode was recorded about 2 weeks ago at this point. The weekend of the 18th, I was on vacation. We did not get to edit, and therefore we didn't have an episode out last week. So this week's episode was recorded before the attack that happened in Colorado Springs. And we didn't not want to address it. Actually, by the time this is out, we will have done our variety show that we've been promoting that shifted into fundraising for the Colorado Healing Fund, which at this point is a link that you can still go to. The URL is going to be at the bottom of the screen. It'll also be in the description for the podcast listeners. And you can go there and donate to support victims and the families of those affected by the attack. I know for me, it hit hard. I was in the middle of celebrating community and being with loved ones and having a good time, just like folks there were. And it sucks. And it's heartbreaking. And we didn't want to not address it in any capacity. Bob, do you have anything you want to say?
Yeah, so this attack took place the evening leading into Trans Day of Remembrance, and 2 of the victims were trans, as far as we know at this point, 2 who died. There were others who were injured, and we don't know about any of them yet. But those who we are holding in our hearts and our community are Raymond Green Vance, Kelly Loving, Daniel Aston, Derek Rump, and Ashley Powell. Or I think that's Poe, possibly. So, yeah, I haven't done a lot of the sort of going to bars or things. So it's still just, it is heartbreaking because you know those are places for joy and community, and someone comes in and shows only hate and malice. Yeah. So we're heartbroken. Our hearts are with our communities, and if you can give to support, or if you can just tell a trans person you know that you love them and that you've got their back through all the hate, and actually have their back when they have issues, that is what we need from you.
Yeah.
So.
We will have raised an amount of money for the Colorado Healing Fund, and we'll have donated that. That is, again, thank you to the cast of that show for being willing to, originally we were going to be splitting that, and everyone was good enough to agree to donate those funds. And yeah, just take care of each other and leave a little extra room in your heart for marginalized people. So that being said, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, that whole episode was recorded before any of this, so there's going to be a nice tonal shift here, and this is my segue into that. But like I said, Colorado Healing Fund will be at the bottom of the screen on the video version and in the description of the podcast episode on whatever platform you're listening on. And enjoy this episode about a movie that's about grief. Hey everybody, my name's John.
I'm Bob. He's Bi.
They're Butch.
And together we are the Butch and the Bi.
This week last week, I guess, we had a good time watching Black Panther Wakanda Forever. A tale of grief.
A tale of resisting colonization.
A tale of, ooh, shiny, let me get it.
A tale of, it's really weird when Martin Freeman does an American accent. It just throws me off so hard.
Yeah, that better. Okay, well, that wraps it. It's the whole episode, right? We did it, everybody. Great. Yeah. No, we went and saw the new Black Panther movie release weekend, but it's coming out this week, this episode, and I'm gonna come in swinging hard. First things first. This is the best movie of Phase 4 of the MCU, which is run from WandaVision was the start of it to now. It's the best thing that has come out, bar none, including the TV shows. And second hot take, this immediately catapulted itself into the top, at least my top 5 for the MCU. Don't ask me what the actual top 5 is because it's always changing, but this definitely solidified its place in the same way that Captain America and the Winter Soldier and Guardians of the Galaxy did. So you've got my 3 of 5. The other 2 are a revolving door of literally everything else. But yeah, what about you, Bob?
I mean, it's very good, and I cried a whole lot.
We sure did.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest on ranking things.
Oh, sure. You don't have to rank anything. I was just
Okay.
seeing if you liked it. I have no idea. We didn't talk about it. They didn't want to talk about it because it was going to make them sad. So now my goal this episode is to make you weep by saying nice things about this movie, starting with the fact that, look, if you're listening to this episode of this specific podcast, you watch Marvel movies, you know the characters and the stars, and in 2018, I believe, or was it 2019?
What? The
death of Ryan Coogler.
Ew.
Not the death of Ryan Coogler.
Actually, 2020.
Was it really 2020?
It was 2020.
Oh my God. Oh, that's right. Yeah. 2020, Chadwick Boseman, the star who plays T'Challa, Black Panther, lost his fight with cancer. It was very unfortunate. From everything that was said about the man, from the people that worked with him and knew him, he was nothing but a gold star example of what it is to be a member of that industry.
And it was a fight that he kept almost entirely under wraps. Only a few close people knew.
Yeah.
And so it just sort of rocked the rest of the world who didn't when it came out.
Yeah. And he, his last thing that came out live action was Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, right? And then he did also, his last performance as T'Challa was several episodes of Disney Plus's What If season 1. And yeah, it hit a lot of people, especially like fans, like a curveball, because they had no indication because someone's still working like that. Someone's still being busy. It catches them off guard. And yeah, it was really unfortunate. And I think no team was hit harder than the cast and crew of Black Panther. Ryan Coogler returning to direct this movie, Black Panther Wakanda Forever. And yeah, this movie had a gargantuan task of dealing with the death of your star, of not only just your star, but your star that has permanently ingrained themselves in the minds of its audience as that character. A lot of people were hoping for a recast of T'Challa, which I understand the sentiment there, but I think it is one of those things where the way that Chadwick Boseman had kind of ingrained himself in the larger community around the Marvel stuff, and also just as the character, people would only be going into this movie with comparisons of Chadwick. And also I can only imagine the difficulties that could face on set with the alive people, cast and crew. So the majority of the characters returned from the first film. We've got Letitia Wright is again playing Shuri. We've got Angela Bassett as Queen, and I'm gonna butcher the last name. Ramonda.
Ramonda.
There we go. Danae Guerra is Okoye. We've also got, as you mentioned, Martin Freeman as Everett K. Ross.
Shuri's favorite colonizer.
Yes, everybody's favorite white boy. Look, representation in media is important, and I'm glad that I can finally see myself represented in media. A schlubby white boy that people.
He's very trim in this movie.
Huh?
He is trim in this movie.
He is. Well, he's getting trim. He's working on it. I wouldn't say it was super trim. Actually, that's what I liked about this movie is that none of the guys were like specifically like trim. Like that was kind of one of the things I liked is that so one of the other characters introduced in this movie, and this is where I'm going to start butchering names because I'm terrible. Tina Kurita, if I'm pronouncing that right, I might not be, but yeah, that's close. Is playing Namor the Submariner, a very iconic look of a character, very similar in kind of campiness of the original look to Mysterio, for example, with the fishbowl helmet. And they did the fishbowl helmet. They were going to do the wings on the feet here. And he, again, and again, he delivers a performance that is both amazing but also menacing, and does it all while wearing swim trunks. And what I really think is important is that they didn't go the route of, okay, you need a 20-pack to be able to play this character kind of thing. He looks strong in the way that someone in the real world is strong. It is, he's
and
a beefy
it looks
boy.
like he's at least a little padded for living deep underwater, which is the thing.
Yeah.
Is like, it gets
blubber.
cold. Yeah, you gotta stay warm. He looks like he can swim and also punch.
He can swim and punch. Also in this movie, we've got Dominique Thorne, who originally auditioned to play Shuri, but is now in here as Riri Williams, one of the Marvel's newest comic book characters. And I am so excited about all the Champions and Young Avengers characters popping up. I also hate when they pop up because it means that the fandom loses its ever loving shit about, oh my god, XYZ character is in this movie. And I was curious how they were going to incorporate her, and they incorporate her in such a smart way that works so well, not only as an origin story for her, but also as the inciting incident for the narrative. Trying to think if there's anyone else. There's a bunch of people in this movie. It's great. Robert Cole, I believe is his name. Yep, Robert Cole also co-wrote the screenplay. And Ludwig Göransson, who did the score for, I believe, The Joker, is responsible for the score here. He also worked on The Mandalorian. Or is it she or he? I can't remember. They. I don't remember. But, and I mean that in the sense of I just can't remember what even the person looked like to even assign a gender. It was literally just in my brain. Man, go music. And every single actor in this movie is delivering a powerhouse performance. And spoiler alert from here on out, I think. Mm-hmm. Bob, do you have any specific thoughts about any of the specific cast?
I mean, they're all great.
Mm-hmm. But was there a performance? Because there are two performances that you don't have to choose just one. There are two performances that stuck out to me, and I'm curious.
Everyone was putting their whole heart and soul into their role. Like, I think Okoye is always going to stand out for me as just like a really compelling character and an amazing performance. Mm-hmm. And there are certain moments that really stab you in the heart. And Letitia's doing a great job as the main character. I love M'Baku. Mm-hmm. I just love him so much. I like seeing him
Winston
do stuff.
Duke plays M'Baku. He's back in this movie. Yeah. For me, it's Danae Guerra and Angela Bassett. And specifically, I think they share one of the best performed scenes in the entire MCU. And again, there are so many ways that a sequel with the challenge that they faced could have gone. And there are so many ways that it could have gone not great. And that is not the case with this movie. This movie does not feel hyper exploitative of Chadwick's death. It feels like a tribute to the performer. It feels like a tribute to the character. It feels like a tribute to the story and to Wakanda and all of these characters. And it also is such a great representation of grief in media, because we see it from so many different angles, from so many different perspectives. And we see it multiple times in this movie. Because, yeah, we're introduced to Namor real quickly in this movie as the governments of the world are looking for a source of vibranium post the blip, and the Atlanteans, which in here are called the Talakoans, I believe, which is their way of distincting this version of Atlantis from the DC Comics version and their live action adaptation. And they used a lot of Mayan influences with the character and with the world building and the design of the Talakoans, and it's beautiful. It is so well done. And there was a joke in She-Hulk about, oh man, it's like we didn't have enough money for the VFX budget, and then it's like it's being used somewhere else, and then the Black Panther theme plays, and you know what? It was a joke there. They weren't kidding though. They really did. This movie looks so good. But yeah, the scene between Angela Bassett and Danai Gurira where Okoye is being fired as general after Shuri has been kidnapped by Namor and his people. And this movie is a war movie. This movie does the thing that Avengers Age of Ultron tried to do, which was Avengers Age of Ultron tried to market itself as a very serious movie. It was not a very serious movie. It was not a gritty, dark movie. This movie advertised itself as a very grief-filled movie, but with just the first teaser watched, it doesn't really spell out a whole lot. Just, things are going to be a lot. And this movie is a lot. It is, it's weird watching when there is a current war that is actively happening. And it is also... I'm not a big fan of war movies. I'm not a big fan of I'm not a history buff. I'm not a history guy. I don't like researching wars. But this movie has such a flow to it and such an escalation that makes sense because of the miscommunications that happen in it. They're after Riri Williams because she has designed a device that can track vibranium
for her metallurgy class, just as a school project.
And the U.S. government basically steals it under the guise of it being sold. It's not clear what the whole thing is. So they use that device, and so the Talakoans have decided we need to kill that scientist. That scientist is college-aged Riri Williams. And so the Wakandans get involved through the fact that they're blamed for the incident on this ship, on this freighter that's going down underwater and looking for it. And when they start their investigation, Namor gets through their borders and approaches the Queen and Shuri as they're trying to start the process of moving on for Shuri, because she is the character with the most she has not really started dealing with it. The movie opens with her trying to find a cure, trying to recreate the heart-shaped herb to cure her brother, and she's ineffective in doing so, and she really hasn't gotten over that, and it's clear in the way she's approaching everything. She starts sounding like certain characters we've seen in the MCU before, and yeah, eventually Riri is tracked down by Okoye and Shuri, which is a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, they find her at college, and Shuri's like, I can handle this. I can do this. And she approaches her, and they have this great little back and forth as two young Black women who are very, very intelligent and knowledgeable about tech. And then Okoye just emerges out of the bathroom and is like, okay, I gave you 6 minutes. We're going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a great thing that someone pointed out on Reddit to me, Bob, and I don't know if you picked up on this. Later in the movie, they use heat technology to weaken Namor. It's a big part of the final fight. Okoye calls out Shuri or Riri for attempting to use a space heater to fight back against Okoye.
Yeah,
And
she's
it's like, what are you going to do? Fight against them with a space heater? Yeah. Yeah, they are. It's amazing. I just wanted to, since we were on that scene. But yeah, and then we get to Riri's lab in this like warehouse garage setup. And Riri Williams in the comic gets an Iron Man suit and for a very brief period of time takes up the Iron Man mantle, and then eventually takes up the Iron Heart mantle. She's not the first character to get an Iron Man suit or Iron Man-like suit. She's not the first person of color to get that either. Rhodey exists in the MCU and in the comics. Pepper Potts gets her rescue armor, all of this stuff. When she was introduced in the comics, there were a lot of people doing the thing they do with characters that are representative of people of color, and they freaked out and did their racist things. And one of the things I love about this movie is it shows the inspiration of the Stark tech being her research and stuff, but I really love that they make it her own. At no point is it she just has an Iron Man suit. It's the implication of like, oh, in the world, Stark designs have pretty much leaked to the public, or people have figured it out at this point. And not only does that make it really interesting that she's the one designing everything for her suit because she makes her own suit, it also leads to a lot of potential world building stuff and bringing back previous characters in different ways, which could be cool. And that starts a chase scene with the cops, which, oh my god, they kill so many cops in this movie. It's a big thing.
Only fair. Yeah, a wild chase scene. Letitia on a motorcycle where she had a injury during filming.
Oh, really? Is that when
Yeah.
she was injured? Okay,
Yep.
gotcha.
Motorcycle time.
Yeah, that checks out because that scene is so there's a lot of practical effects in this movie too, which is really cool. They did it with the first movie too, with the car chase scene. So Ryan Coogler's big on practical car chase scenes. And Riri is flying through the skies in her Mark I Ironheart armor. It looks amazing. It's practical, which is I didn't even realize till after we were done watching because it looks good, but like, man, it looks good just seeing it. Like they have the whole get up at and then Okoye is driving around in Riri's car, which it's a great scene, but there's a moment where she shoves her spear through the back to be able to then create a ramp. It's a whole thing. And we get, again, harkening back to kind of Captain America and the Winter Soldier, we get a really great bridge fight scene that is intense and menacing because the villain is of an unknown power scale. It's clearly a threat to Okoye, who has proven time and time again to be like one of the best fighters in the MCU. And it is very intense. And yeah, I love the designs of the Talakoans that aren't Namor because they have these little respirator things on their mouth that have water in them, and that's how
and on their necks for their gills.
Oh, are there also ones in there? Okay, cool. I didn't notice those ones. But yeah, it's such a good fight scene.
It's such a good fight scene. And the other thing is that until that point, and until late in the fight when Shuri's like, oh, I need to translate this because they can't understand. That's another thing is like unknown power scale. And also we don't know what language they're speaking for a while. And she uses her cool little bead necklace to be able to translate and negotiate meeting up with Namor. And Kohi gets thrown off a bridge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that is when they get separated.
Yeah. And this sets up a really interesting thematic thing with Okoye and Atuma, who is one of the Talakoans that's a character in the comics. Similar to like Ocean Master kind of thing. He's a Namor villain kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Namor himself is a villain in the comics and also an ally kind of thing. He's very, even the Atlantans in the comic are much more isolationist than Wakanda ever was when they showed up in the MCU kind of thing.
Yeah, he's got a hammerhead shark skull, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's very dope. But he also, it sets up a wonderful dance between these two characters throughout the movie where there's this point where she drops her spear or gets knocked out of her hand and she's on the ground, easy kill. And he addresses her as a warrior and kicks it over to her as like, pick it up. And then they fight again. And that's another thing about this movie. It's a war movie, and it's an escalation of these different little battles and miscommunications. But there's this thing of, for almost all the characters that aren't Shuri and Namor, this thing of honor. Because the core conflict really isn't viable until later in the movie. The core conflict is how to deal with the surface world, and Namor and his people want to destroy the surface world and think the Wakandans should help them because there's vibranium involved, and the Wakandans obviously don't want to destroy the surface world in any capacity, but they also understand at least Shuri does, understand the plight of the Talakoans. She is the first and only human to ever get taken down to their city, and it's a parallel to Wakanda. There's kids buying stuff at merchants, and there's all these different things that echo her home, and it's beautiful. And we get this origin story that is just real, and it's Namor, and his people. They take this the plant shaped, it's the heart shaped herb, but from their vibranium mound, so it's not exactly the same heart shaped herb, and that results in them needing to be in water, including his mother, who he is the MCU's first named mutant, in the sense that he's aware of what a mutant is, not just, oh, your genes, they're mutated.
His mother was pregnant with him at the time and was worried about it. Also, they do this because Spanish conquistadors have arrived and are ruining shit and have given them a bunch of them smallpox. And so, to try and escape colonization, they turn to this vision that a shaman sees, where he goes and gets the vibranium herb, and they turn blue and go to the water. And he, because of his specific in utero experience of this, he is born able to exist in both worlds and with little wings on his ankles.
So that's the interesting thing. So the sea-based abilities, the ability to breathe underwater and do all that stuff, that seemingly is indicative of being born of someone who had taken this herb. The wings, the strength, the flight, all that stuff are seemingly indicative of his X gene, because none of the other Talakoans have these abilities. And his mother, when she finally does die, she wants to be buried on the surface world. She wants to return home, only to find that, man, colonizers suck.
Yep, it's a Spanish plantation, and the kid who plays Little Namnor just has deals with it so well. Just like, I don't know, it's extremely sad and powerful, but they torch the place. They kill all the colonizers.
And what is it? The translation of Namora is
Namor. I believe it's like, child without love.
Is it one without love or child without love?
He says child without love.
Yeah, and so they really, I'm like, not wrong. Like it's that's the thing too, is this phase in general has had a number of villains or antagonists really that aren't wrong until they do a really shitty thing. Wanda's a good example of this, where, man, she's not wrong up until she murders half of Camartage. Like, it's like, woof.
Yeah, it's a lot of people who have a lot of trauma and are essentially trying to protect their family, because that's the thing in doing various research for this. The thing about Namor, whether he's an ally or an enemy, is that ultimately his full loyalty is to his people. Yeah. He's not going to make any alliance that's stronger than the one he has over his people. So in the world of politics and complex issues, that is going to sometimes place him as the bad guy. But
yeah,
he's also not wrong for the most part.
For the most part, yeah. And this movie, for the most part, makes him right up until it's genocide the surface world kind of thing. But I understand the frustration. It's this thing of, man, do I disagree with the execution, but I empathize with where the frustration is coming from. But for the most part, and I think that's the thing, is that initial trauma happens, but they at some point went completely isolationist and hidden from the world in the same way that Wakanda did, and even in their case, even less so involvement with the human world. Wakanda was much more ingrained into society secretly, having spies and the Dora Milaje and everything.
It's a little easier to hide when you're literally at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, they're deep down there. That scene where he kind of creates a what's that called underwater?
Oh, a current?
Yeah, the underwater current where he is having Shuri come down. You just the pressure in your head builds. Like my ears were about to pop at watching that movie. And yeah, it's difficult because the queen and Okoye gets fired. The queen goes and finds Nakia, who is in Haiti, who is running a school seemingly or some sort of community run thing, and has asked her to come back and save Shuri. And she does so, and in doing so kills two of his people. And
as they're going away, Shuri's like, I'm trying to save the life of the one person.
This is going to start a war, because that's what he threatened, basically, is like, if they come here, it's war, and it started a war. And we have different confrontations of the community discussing the problem, but eventually war does break out. The Talakoans do start a battle in the capital city of Wakanda, and it's a fantastic fight. There's a lot of different things going on. The effects are amazing. The cinematography is amazing. One specific moment I want to highlight during the fight is when M'Baku, who is he's a traditionalist. He is a very adverse to technology individual that is carried through the movies. And in this, he tries to attack Namor with his wooden spear thing that he has. And that just splinters on Namor's back. And then Namor turns around and just chest punches him, shattering his armor and setting him off. I thought for sure he died. I was like, oh, they just chest impaled M'Baku.
Yeah, I was really scared. I was like, oh no, don't kill him. Don't kill him.
Yeah. And later on in the final battle, it shows him having a new vibranium spear and a little more advanced armor. And I love that in this movie, that's just one of many examples of a lot of nonverbal character development. This movie does show, don't tell so well. Especially because it's got so many different moving pieces. It's doing a war story that you have to track. You're introducing a whole new race of people and characters that are going to be important to the MCU moving forward. You're dealing with Contessa Valentina de Allegra is back in this. It's revealed that she's the ex-wife of Everett Ross, which I love. And she clearly is scheming, and she's on to the fact that Everett is working with the Wakandans to at least be a liaison kind of thing. And then you've got the general the grief of everything, and so I love that there's moments like that, especially because Winston Duke, he has a bunch of the funny lines in this movie. Not many of the other characters have the bandwidth for funny in this film.
Yeah, both him and Riri were the release on the pressure cooker. One of them said that about their characters. It's a little pressure valve just and it's like, okay.
Yeah, and Okoye has some great one-liners in this movie as well. She's the same way, and Danae Guerra just brings that to every role she's in. She does that in The Walking Dead. From what I've seen from her, I gave up after season 8 or something. I don't know, whenever they killed one of the characters, and I was like, well, that's weird. But yeah, that battle's rough, and it gets worse when Riri is being not held, but like she's at the palace with Ramonda and Namor, who, before we make this really sad, his flying is so fucking cool because he's literally just kicking off of the air. He's doing a similar thing to what Miss Marvel does with her kind of jump.
Yeah, it's sort of the vibe of any type of skating, like the way that you angle one foot to be the foot that you push off of and the other one you glide on. Yeah. So yeah, he's very much skating through the air.
Yeah, he's definitely, it's beautiful to watch.
Very good. And
he flies up to the window of the palace. He throws some of his little water bomb things at it, and it results in the entire palace being flooded, basically, and Ramonda and Riri being dragged down into the water, and the queen saves Riri, brings her back up, and the Dora Milaje show up, and they are able to resuscitate Riri. And man, this is so rough because Shuri's running in at this moment, and M'Baku and Okoye are holding her back. Or Nakia?
Nakia.
Yeah, Nakia and M'Baku are holding her back because she is in a place where she is losing the rest of her heart. As she says later in the film, it is devastating. Angela Bassett was so good in this movie. The whole cast was, but like it's like I think I saw someone on a podcast or something say it was like they were holding Angela Bassett at gunpoint and told her, if you don't do the best acting you've ever done, it'll be your last movie. And she delivered.
She
so
really
well.
like, you believe she is a queen. Like the scene earlier on in like United Nations where she has her soldiers bring in all the men who tried to infiltrate the thing and steal their stuff, and it's like, I'm giving you these people back.
Yeah.
This is a peace offering. Don't mess it up. And her confrontation with Okoye, like everything is just like, she is a queen and also just a human. And yeah, now this is the point where I cry because
it's just hard.
Specifically because Okoye calls her mother, both earlier when she's like, don't fire me, and then also here when she's like, don't leave me. And that sort of, that connection, it gets to me.
Yeah.
So.
It is extremely devastating. And like the thing with Okoye too is like when she demotes Okoye, she's not wrong to. Like that's the hard part is because like technically Okoye did betray the royal family in the first movie kind of thing, even though it's like she did do it to be able to be in a voice. It's just it's so hard. It's and she never gets that closure with her, and she never will, kind of thing. And one of the many gifts that Namor provided Shuri, other than just knowledge and the history of his people, was also a bracelet that his mother had made. It was given by the other people that guaranteed that Namor would be king, that her son would be king when he was of age. And this bracelet is made of fibers from that same plant, and Shuri kind of realizes that after the death of her mother, which the we didn't talk about it, but with T'Challa's death and with his memorial and them carrying the casket, there's this thing I was talking to a friend of mine last night about it of in predominantly Black communities, there is a celebration of life. It is a lot more of a jovial, hey, this person meant so much to this community for however long they were in it, and we are going to celebrate that. And in predominantly white communities, it is the opposite. It is, you sit there and you look at the corpse and you just it's very sad, and there's not much of that celebration of the person outside of just kind of recognizing maybe the impact they had on you individually as you tell a eulogy. And with the Queen, we don't get that because they're in wartime and they don't have time to. And he even, Namor, after he sees what's happened, he says, bury your dead, mourn, grief, and then we will be back. And he's so menacing.
Yeah,
but
and just seeing Shuri back in her funeral garb that she didn't
burn
earlier.
Yeah.
Yep, that killed me.
And she has a conversation with M'Baku, which is really beautiful because he's really grown as a character.
And he promised T'Challa that he would be
on
supporting.
his deathbed, yeah. And it's because he goes from, oh, we should just kill the fish man, to we can't, this is there's too much here, like this is. And Shuri mentions earlier that when she thinks about T'Challa and if she starts to dig into that grief, all she wants to do is burn the whole world down. And when she develops the new synthetic heart-shaped herb that she couldn't for her brother, she only has vengeance in her heart, and she goes to the ancestral plane, and she doesn't see her mother or her father or a CGI recreation of Chadwick Boseman. And big spoiler alert, she sees Killmonger, her cousin, and he's earlier in the movie she meant, because she's not into the spiritual stuff, she doesn't believe in it too much, and I realized this after watching it, the reason that was the thing her mind constructed was because it was the thing that most proves that to her that the ancestral plane isn't real. Because why would it be Killmonger? And in this case it's because her and Killmonger have the same problem in this moment, which is this person who I should respect based on the interactions I've had with them killed my father, or killed my mother, and it's such, again, this movie is so well acted. Michael B. Jordan returns and does just a phenomenal job, and there's, she realizes she has powers, that it worked. She didn't think it worked because she didn't see her family, and she needs a suit, and she looks at her father's, T'Chaka's helmet. Nope. She looks at her brother's, T'Challa's. Nope. And then she goes into storage and pulls out Eric's. And it's that moment when you realize that she chose the vengeance. She chose the revenge. The suit looks slick as hell, but I didn't connect the gold to Killmonger till I was thinking about it after, of like, that his suit was it's again doing a lot of storytelling and a lot of character development without telling it directly, and I love that. And they start to prepare for war, and Riri builds a new suit that's made of vibranium. It looks very good. It's so good. There's a pulsating heart in the middle of it. It's this nice vibrant red color.
Okay, Okoye finally yields and wears the new armor.
The Midnight Angel armor, which I don't know if you can see. There's some hero clicks down here. We haven't talked about hero clicks in that segment, but there are some of those down there. Those are one of the most comic accurate things I've seen in the MCU. Those are ripped straight from the page, very beautifully. And they have this ship that they take out to the ocean that they basically trigger the same sensor for vibranium to trap the Atlanteans, which bringing the Atlanteans out to sea to fight them was a bit of a choice. But they do have this like sonic thing that's blasting. It's a big fight. There's
Sonic
a lot
disruptor.
of casualties.
Also, real quick, love seeing whales. Just the shots of orcas and of, I believe, humpbacks with the Telegans on them is just so good. I love that.
I don't know if you saw this. Yes, we've got Namor riding. I believe it's Gargantuos is the specific. Oh, Giganto. Yes. So Pinocchio's floating around in there somewhere. But yeah, this is an intense. I mean, this movie's intense. This movie does not stop. Once it goes, it goes. And this battle's intense. There's a lot of really great moments. We could go in depth about it. We're gonna move along to what is the most important part of this, which is they have trapped Namor in one of their ships. It's been modified to be to suck out all the moisture. It's to heat him up, dry him out, and they have this really intense fight. The ship crashes on the shore of a desert, and they continue to fight there. That's intense, and Shuri gets impaled. And again, these two acting against each other. There are a lot of great two character scenes in this movie, and I mean, it's that's a guttural stab, and he's limping away, kind of getting disoriented and
trying to get to the water so he doesn't just die.
Yeah. And she breaks herself out. She Stevie Irwins herself out of it. What you're not supposed to do if you've been impaled. Don't pull the thing out. Take the thing with you to the hospital. She has the nanobots.
Yeah, the nanobots provide a seal, and I was like, that was the only reason. I was like, oh, she's got the suit. The suit's gonna plug the wound.
But she goes after him. She gets in front of him, and she blows up the ship behind him. And she has him ready for the kill. And that's when she remembers her brother, because T'Challa learned this lesson in Civil War with his interactions with Zemo. And there's this great parallel of her telling Namor that vengeance has consumed us, but we should not let it consume them. Because just like Namor, Shuri does realize that she is responsible for the Wakandan people now, as far as that goes in this moment. And
She has a little vision of the two cultures side by side, her home and when she visited them, and a very quick vision of her mother telling her to show him who she is.
Yeah. And they fly back to the ship as there are a lot of dead Wakandans on the ship and a lot of dead Atlanteans in the water. And they end the battle. They go their separate ways, and it doesn't feel like a complete like, oh, we copped out of this. Like, no, it's the two people realize that they have a very personal conflict, rooted in a very separate issue, and that they are costing the lives of the people they care so much about. And yeah, it just, I mean, the movie ends, Riri's going back to America. She doesn't get to keep the suit because it's just a vibranium death machine, and that makes sense. And there's only a mid-credit scene in this movie, and it's the most epilogue of a mid-credit scene. The most of these mid and end credit scenes typically are either a preview for the next thing or just like a gag, but this is required viewing.
Yes. Well, the end of the movie, we see them back on the cliffs for the ceremony. And the ship comes down, and he's like, here's Shuri. And no, it's M'Baku being like, Shuri said she had something else to do. I'm here, and I'm challenging to be king, which love that for him.
Yeah.
And then we see that Shuri has gone to Haiti and taken Nakia up on her offer to come live with her. Yeah. And she
goes to burn her funeral garments.
And that's when we see all the shots of Chadwick and his beautiful smile and just...
Yeah, Rihanna's new song starts playing, the credits roll, and Nakia comes walking up to Shuri on the beach with a little boy who has the same exact grin as Chadwick, because Nakia, after the blip, left, and turns out she was pregnant. And she has a 6-year-old son with T'Challa, whose name is T'Challa. And I was talking to a friend earlier today about this, of what a beautiful way to handle the requests to be able to see that character again, right? If there's one thing that the MCU has done extremely well, it's consistency as far as like a solid path to follow. And obviously there have been some recasts, but it was always something like, Iron Man 2 and Incredible Hulk were 20 years ago. It's or 50, whatever it's been. But to have it so that, they're approaching these time travel shenanigans, maybe we get to see an adult T'Challa sooner rather than later, or maybe in 15 years or so, we see another Black Panther movie with this T'Challa and having the legacy and history of that. And it's she's like, did my mother get to meet him? And she's like, yeah. And they decided it would be
earlier
best.
in the movie, Ramondo is like, I have something I need to tell you about your brother.
Oh, you're right.
On the beach, and then they're interrupted by the elephants freaking out because Namor's in the water.
Yeah.
I realized that afterwards. I was like, oh, she was gonna tell her about the nephew.
But honestly, and Nakia puts it best of, we wanted to tell you when the moment was right. And honestly, I think it was smart to have it be, I think emotionally it makes more sense for her to meet him after she's kind of made that step toward getting over or moving on.
Which I imagine is also partially what her mother was trying to get her to do with burning the garments, and she wasn't ready for it then. Yeah. So
yeah, this movie's beautiful. This movie, they just did such an excellent job. Every performer in this realizes the significance of it, and I'd argue it's better than the first movie. I'd love that first movie, but I think this one just... And I don't know how much of it is, well, your main star needs to die for you to make a good movie, but like they did not waste not the opportunity, but they did not waste the time. They did not make it a gimmick or an exploitation. They really did such a good job, and yeah, it's the end of Phase 4. Also, we liked She-Hulk. We didn't talk about that on the podcast, but we're talking Marvel stuff. So, Bob, you have fun trivia for me today, which is great.
All right. I have no idea how hard these will be for you.
Great.
Some of them are weird. Some of them you probably know.
Okay.
So hopefully it's a good mix of things. None of this would be hitting as hard if it were not for Chadwick Boseman being truly the force of nature he is. He did so much good in his life and gave so much to the world in his performances, but he didn't grow up wanting to be an actor. What did he say he wanted to be as a child?
Oh, man. I don't know. Was it baseball player? No. Doctor?
Closer to that, but not quite.
Was it social services? A teacher.
No, he actually wanted to be an architect.
Oh, interesting.
And then when he got interested in movies, he was like, oh, I'm going to be a writer and a director. And he wrote a few plays that he had put on during school. And it was a while before someone was like, hey, you should try acting. And then they were like, you need to keep doing this. So, yeah. While it's taken a while for the MCU to get to Namor, he was created very early on in Marvel's history and one of the top 3 characters of Marvel's predecessor Timely Comics. Who were the other 2 in the top 3?
Captain America.
Mhm.
I mean, Bucky Barnes was part of Timely Comics, but I don't think you're counting that.
No.
Is it Jim Hammond, the Human Torch?
Yeah.
The android? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Android Human Torch.
Yeah, I very much want at some point, because they've got all these characters lined up. They've got T'Chaka, they've got Janet and Hank, they've got the android Human Torch, they've got Peggy Carter. Like, they've got all these past characters that they could easily do like a Shield Avengers first run. It would be interesting, but they never will. So
yeah. Director of both Black Panther movies, Ryan Coogler, has been gaining accolades since his first full-length movie, Fruitvale Station. This movie began his relationship with which actor who appears in every movie he's directed since?
As in, he has a relationship with this actor, or it's just
This actor has been in every movie he's directed.
okay. Is it Deny? No. Winston Duke? Is it the Dora Milaje guard? That's name I can't remember now. Fuck.
Michael B. Jordan.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
Because he was in Fruitvale Station. He was in Creed. He's been in both Black Panthers.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, I found that really interesting. Winston Duke plays M'Baku, one of the Butch's favorite characters, but he is very different from his original comic portrayal. What is that portrayal?
That is literally a man in a white ape suit, and it's not great. It does not hold up.
Called Man-Ape, and specifically...
Yeah. Specifically what?
What's his alignment?
Oh, he's the villain.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, he is one of the antagonists in the first film. He becomes less of an antagonist through that film and then is a hero from there on out. But they don't completely ignore those roots in the same way for Wanda and Pietro. But no, the original depiction of Man-Ape is oof. And the original depiction of Killmonger is also oof. A lot of Wakanda stuff is
considering that it was all created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Who were trying.
Yeah, but like Killmonger wasn't created by Stan Lee. Like there's stuff. It is one of those things where when you have a industry that's predominantly written by and drawn by white people, it's gonna have that stuff seep through, whether or not don't get me wrong. Like, yeah, they introduced the characters like Luke Cage and Black Panther and Sam Wilson and James Rhodey, but like it's still from the perspective of a white boy, like kind of thing. But no, the original depictions, they definitely, it is one of the many improvements the MCU makes.
Another quick Man-Ape question. Despite their rivalry, he is invited to T'Challa's wedding in the comics, where he gets drunk and tries to pick a fight with which popular superhero?
Is it Johnny Storm?
Nope.
Is it one of the Fantastic Four?
No.
Okay. Well, it's definitely not. Is it any of the Illuminati, like Strange or Iron Man or anything?
No.
No. Okay. Is it an X-Men?
No.
I need hints here.
It's one of your favorites.
Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Whoa. Wowza. Is that his marriage to Storm?
No, Aurora.
That's
a different universe. There is a person.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so.
Oh, I thought you were just saying Storm's actual name wrong.
Nope.
Okay,
nope.
Gotcha.
As far as I could tell, it's like, I couldn't.
Is it an O name?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Storm's real name is on your.
No, it's something else.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, that was a different universe. He met her like in the streets. She was just
Aurora Monroe.
Yeah.
That's Storm. Yeah.
Okay.
That's also canon to the comics.
All right.
But it is yeah, of course. Anyways, continue. Bob, I'm gonna out trivia here. Actually.
That's in the movie, Namor says his name means child without love, inspired by the dying words of one of his victims. Bill Everett, who originally created the character, had a very different thought in mind. What was the original inspiration for Namor's name?
Oh, geez. Is it a type of fish?
No, it's very silly. And
They just like the way it sounded.
yes, but it came from a
From a what?
Think of the word in your head. Look at the letters.
Namor. Namor. MOR. Yeah. Namor. I genuinely don't know. He just liked the way it looked. Sorry.
Bill was writing noble-sounding names backward. Roman to Namor
Oh
sounded
my God.
the best
That's
to
why
him.
he says, what does he say? He says a Roman phrase in the movie. What is it?
I can't remember. Yep.
Yeah, okay. Imperious Rex.
Mm-hmm.
They call him Imperious Rex, yeah.
Yeah, no, he was
Wow.
noble-sounding names backwards, and Namor was the one he liked.
Mm-hmm.
In the MCU, Black Panther / T'Challa's first appearance is in Captain America: Civil War, but what was his first appearance in the comics?
Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Okay. That's everybody's first appearance in the comics. What are you talking about?
Mm-hmm. Angela Bassett, Queen of Wakanda and of Our Hearts, has an impressive history in acting, and Black Panther is not her first comic book movie credit on the list. What is?
Do I just need the movie?
Yeah, if you can pull them.
Okay, because I won't know the character, but I can assume just previous Marvel movies. DC. Hold on, no, don't.
Okay.
I can do this. Is it one of the old Batman movies? No, okay. She's not in any of the Superman movies. I know that. Is she in Steel?
No.
Okay.
Would you like a hint?
Sure.
Someone else in this movie also got a second chance in the MCU. Another actor was in this movie who has since been in a Marvel movie. This movie,
in an MCU movie.
Yeah, now it is.
So this was a
This
comic book
movie-
movie that did not do well.
Yes.
I said Steel already. Oh my God. Hold on. I'm just trying to think of DC has so far fewer movies to choose from. That's why I'm trying to think of what she would have been. It's definitely something 80s or 90s, right?
No.
No, really?
Yeah.
She's not in
2011.
What DC Comics movie came out in 2011? Holy shit. Because that predates Man of Steel, so it predates the... Is she in Dark Knight Rises?
I said no Batman.
Oh, no. Okay, never mind. Sorry. Green Lantern.
Yes, she
Holy
is Amanda Waller in Green Lantern.
Oh, that's really good casting. I'm sure she would. You know what? I knew that because people mentioned it. Fuck. Okay. Wild. God. Oof. I was so sure it was going to be like a typecasting situation where it's like, yes, let's get the black woman actress into the black superhero movie. And therefore I was like, Steel, because that seems to make... Is she in Steel? Maybe she is.
No, I was looking at... I don't think so.
When did she start acting? 70s?
Yeah, I think so. 70s, 80s. Yeah. And then I had a question that you already know the answer to.
Oh, is it because I said it during
yes.
the episode? What's the question?
It was about Dominique Thorne having auditioned
for
Shuri.
Shuri, yeah.
But a bonus question.
Oh, okay.
Letitia Wright turned 29 just recently, as her birthday is which holiday?
Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice, yeah. We didn't address that elephant in the room.
Yeah.
I did do a little digging to clarify. It seems the case that most prominently points to the issue is that so during the pandemic, when the vaccine was finally rolling out, she posted a video that was a very long video that was presenting concerns with the vaccine. obviously for Black communities, and especially African communities, there is big hesitancy towards vaccination. Understandable, but this vaccine specifically was important because we were going through a global pandemic. So any sort
Some
of
might say we still are.
We
It's
still
just
are,
not
yeah.
televised anymore.
Yeah, and she had shared this video with little to no context on her end. It was a long video, and it turns out that in that video there are also a number of transphobic views. It's unclear if she had just watched bits and pieces, if she didn't know the full context. There is also an article following up after an interview with Don Cheadle, who does a lot of trans rights activism. He's one of the only people, including Chadwick Boseman, that stood up for Brie Larson when all of that shit was going down. And he basically says, yeah, I'm going to talk with her. I have looked. There has not been another thing about it since 2021 when this all kind of went down. It seems like in a most generous interpretation, it may have been just, I think a lot of people do this, and I've done it in the past, is you start watching a video that relates to something that you care about or that you are concerned about, and you, for the most part, get the vibe of like, oh, yeah, this seems to be on the up and up, and then you quit watching and share it, and it nosedives from there. I don't. Did you find anything?
I didn't find anything. No further comment has been made on that.
Yeah. At most generous, it is ignorance and not malice kind of thing. In regards to the transphobia stuff and regarding the vaccine aversion, again, understandable in that community, but also unclear if she's ever gotten vaccinated. I had assumed initially when I heard that the production was shut down because of her, it was because of vaccination status and they were having issues with the pandemic, but I did not realize it was the leg injury from the motorcycle accident.
Mm-hmm.
So you are the more trans of the two of us. Do you have thoughts or a statement you'd like to make?
It's unfortunate, but honestly, if she doesn't make a specific comment on it, I'm not gonna specifically be like, yes.
Yeah, there are much more explicitly transphobic, like Gina Carano, who was in Mandalorian, who dug her heels in and then decided, hey, I'm going to partner up with Ben Shapiro. She can rot in hell.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we haven't heard anything, and the fact that during the press junket, there was actually one of the interviews was a trivia game with this, what was her, it's this drag queen, and she has this really great name. It's like, oh my God, I'm in drag, or oh my God, I'm black. It's something. And she's like cordial and nice, and it's not a weird thing, and there's no awkward tension. So like, I don't know. And she's on the younger side, so you hope. She's 28, right?
She just turned 29 on Halloween.
She just turned 29,
but yeah, so she's a little bit older than us. Another fun fact
that
I learned in my interview watching.
Is Chadwick Boseman a raging homophobe? No? Okay,
he
great.
was a very good person who gave a lot of money and cared a lot about a lot of issues. No, Tanak, who played Namor, didn't know how to swim before this movie.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so they were talking to him, and his people were talking like, you swim? He's like, I haven't drowned yet. And they were like, can you swim? And finally he was like, I don't. So he took lessons beforehand, and then when they got on set, there were free diving lessons for people to get.
Yeah,
and
it's
he
a
got
lot
up
of visual effects too.
Yes, a lot of visual effects too, but it was still a thing of like, you're going to be okay if you put you in some water. But he got up to 4.5 minutes of being able to hold his breath underwater, and Winston Duke got up to 5.
Angela Bassett?
Winston Duke got up to 5 minutes.
Okay.
So.
Huh. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Wow. That's very funny. Though honestly, it's when I was a boy. No, when I was a kid, I was like, oh, maybe I want to be an actor or something. I'm terrible at swimming. I can't swim without like the fucking scuba mask on. But I always was like, if I became an actor, I'd want to be in superhero movies and stuff. But that requires you to be able to like swim and be in water, and I can't. So that was like a tiny hindrance on me ever pursuing it. So I'm like, well, I don't want to get in a situation where I already do that enough with food. But that's really funny.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know how to phrase that as a trivia question, so I just added it as a fun fact.
Great. What's this one thing this person couldn't do before they got the role? I also wanted to take a moment. First off, This is a great movie. Go watch it. It's fantastic. I'm probably gonna watch it again before the time that this episode even comes out, because I'm going places to meet some friends, and I'm excited. Hence why we recorded this so early. But I would be remiss. We're talking about comic books. If we did not pay some respects to Kevin Conroy, who passed away at the time you're listening to this last week. He is the Batman that I think everybody in our generation associates with being the best Batman. Oftentimes, when it comes to ranking Batmans, it's not even an option to rank. Like, it's outside of Kevin Conroy, or it's, which of the live action Batmans? Because there really is no comparison. And I did not learn this until about a year ago, that Kevin Conroy was gay, and that he was in the industry. And he couldn't be out for a good chunk of the beginning of his career. And he was able to pull from that experience to portray Batman and his other traumas. He has this really great story in DC Pride from last year that he wrote and was drawn to look similar to the Bruce Timm style of the animated series. Just talking about that. And it's called Becoming Batman, or Finding, what's it called? I can't remember now, but it's in the DC Pride issue. And it's the first queer performer who has had an impact on my life, outside of recency, post coming out, kind of thing, because there are so few queer performers that were out around the time a lot of things I was consuming as a child, kind of thing. And that show holds up. He's the voice of the Batman games. He's just a stellar person. He really, in the last 20 years, spent a lot of time doing fan circuits and Comic Cons and stuff. And overall, again, just a swell dude. And that's, yeah, it was a tough loss this year. And he was 66. So yeah, on this very bright episode of the podcast, Bob, what are we going to be watching next week? Are you telling me you don't remember?
I don't.
Oh my God. Bob, we're a media podcast.
Something with Danny DeVito?
I would really love to see Danny DeVito's interpretation of Chucky. Yeah, there you go. We'll be watching the season finale and talking about season 2 of Chucky, because we really enjoyed it this year so far. And after that, our buddy Brian's going to be on the show.
Yeah.
To watch the original Candyman. And if you want to... Oh, Kitty, come on. We were so close. Scratching the thing. If you want to be sure that you're up to date when those episodes come out, or if there are any other announcements, make sure to follow us on social media. You can find all of our information at www.thebutchandtheby.com. That's A-N-D, not ampersand, because the internet does not like ampersands. We don't end the show anymore. We just keep it going. How dare you? Ugh. Bye.
Butch.